Hello, Internet. So I am going to start a new series on using Blender. I'm going to start off with the basics. So when you start up with Blender for the first time, you are confronted by this is called the default cube. It's a cube that sits directly right smack dab in the middle of your screen, and you rotate around it or you move around it. But just to help you get started with Blender from the ground up, just a couple of quick tips. So, first things first, how do you actually move the field of vision here? So, first thing I'm doing is I'm holding down the middle mouse key, and that will rotate around. And as you move the mouse, hopefully what you see will move in a way that you consider intuitive, so that if you drag down, it'll let you see the top or bottom. If you drag from side to side, it'll rotate it around. And you can also get the same effect by clicking and dragging on these little gizmos over here. So these will show you where the X, the Y, and the Z directions are, and this is the same sort of thing that you would learn about if you were in a math class in high school or junior high, or I think even back to grade school. It's been so many years that I kind of forgotten which one we first learned all these things. But the red is the X direction, the Y is the green direction, and the Z is the blue direction. By default, the X and the Y are shown. There is a way to show the Z as well, and it's one of these, I believe. It's one of these little settings over here. They've recently moved things around, so I'm not really sure which way they might have shown that, but there is a way of getting the Z. It's off by default. So what else do we have? We have this little tab over here called the Info tab, and you can drag this all the way over to the edge and drop it in. Grab this little doohickey right here and yank it out, or you can type the in key, and the in key will slide it in and out and deactivate that. And sometimes if this is getting right in your way, it's handy to just hit the in key to hide that. We have a tools bar over here with a variety of different things we can use, and that one is hidden with T. So T for tools slides in and out, in for info slides in and out, and then we have our default cube. Let's see, what else can we talk about? Moving around. So if you hold the shift key down and you click the middle mouse button, you can drag. And apparently that also allows you to drag the cursor around. So shift and that is the right mouse button will allow you to move that around. Left mouse cursor with shift doesn't do anything. So control with the middle mouse cursor lets you zoom in and out. So hold down the control key, that'll zoom in and out. Alt will let you switch from side to side so that you're looking at the sides. So this is the Alt and middle mouse button, and I'm looking at the side, looking down from the top, looking up from the bottom. And how can I tell that that's what I'm doing? Well, I'm looking at this little doohickey over here, and we can look in from the side over here. How else can you do this? Well, there's if you happen to have a numpad in your keyboard, not all do. 7 will look in from the top. 1 will looks like straight down the minus y-axis, looking forward along the y-axis. X will look down the positive axis, going in the direction of negative x-axis. And if you hold down the control, it will actually look down the other one. So Control 1 is looking straight down the y-axis in the direction of the negative y. 3 looks down the x-axis in the direction of negative x. Control 3 on the numpad will look straight down the negative x-axis, looking along the positive x-axis. And then Z looks up from the bottom. Now sometimes they will talk about This is 1 as being the front, and control 1 as being the back, and then X3 would be from the side, from the 3, or control 3 would be from the sides, depending on which one's which. But which one you consider the front, which one you consider the back, that's a bit of a choice of convention. So those are some of the basics. Now I've taken the cursor here. That's this little doohickey, and I moved it around. And the cursor is one of your best tools, and we'll see why over coming episodes. But we can move it around with Shift and the right mouse button. All right, so once we've done that, the question is, well, what if I wanted it to be straight back where it was? All right, so Shift S will open up this wheel. Okay, so again, Shift S. I'm using the right mouse button to close this, so wherever it starts. So if we want to put the cursor right back at the world origin, we can pop it right back there. If we move this off and we want it to be at the center location of an object, click cursor to select it, and it'll pop it right back to the center of that object. Technically the origin of the object, which is not necessarily the center. Here, these two are the same thing. The origin and the center are the same. Not necessarily always the same thing. So these are some of the basics of how to navigate. Now there is another way that is a little bit more sophisticated, and that is something similar to if you were in a game, or if you were in the Unreal Engine and you were making a game with Unreal, for example. If you do Shift and then the tilde key, and the tilde is between the tab and the escape key. It's that thing above the tab. To the left of the 1 key on American keyboards. If you do that, then you can look around with your mouse, and then W, A, D, and S have the usual first-person shooter style key controls. So W, A, S, and D. Q will go down, and E will move up. Okay, so those are also similar to things like Unreal. So once you hit the right mouse key, that will end that. So this can help you sort of zoom in and get an idea of what's going on as you move around the viewport. Okay, and I believe if you hold down the Shift key, it goes faster, which is actually something a little bit backwards from the way most of Blender's tools work. So right mouse key to drop out of that again, and now of course we've moved off of the center. So now when we now the center of our rotation is I don't know, somewhere around over in this region, and so what happens if we want to move right back to the center over here? Well, we come over here, we click View, and we can align View to the cursor. And that's one of the reasons why the cursor is a very powerful thing to work with, is because it can help you align the view. Now there are other ways of aligning the view. There's all sorts of tools over here. As you progress with Blender, you will get more and more accustomed to these things. But for right now, just know that this exists, and know that you can go back and center view the cursor, so that if you start moving around and can't get a good view of what you're looking at, that's a good way of doing it. All right, what else do we have? Well, we have wireframe mode. Now that's this guy over here. We have what's called solid view, which is without any sort of colors applied to your thing. Well, okay, I suppose that's not 100% true. There is a way of coloring these, and usually you'd want to do that if things were a different material, like if something were made out of glass, something else were made out of brick or something. You could see that in this view. But the nice thing about this view is it allows you to look at an object without a lot of coloring, because sometimes the details can get hidden. Nice thing about wire view is you can sort of see how things are all aligned. You can get a good idea of what's going on with your geometry. But then there's what's called viewport. This is the material preview mode, and this is not a full rendering. This is not like taking a digital photograph, but it gives you an idea of how something might look. And it doesn't have all the lighting applied. And then finally we have this thing over here called rendering mode. Now this is essentially like taking a digital photograph, a virtual photograph, and this will take into account the lighting. And we have this light over here. I can click that guy and I can move him around, and if I move him around, then the lighting on this thing should change. So we move things around by taking G for grab and sliding it around. You can see that the light over there is changing depending on where this guy is. Okay, so we can rotate around like that, and that's all good. Okay, so these are just basic tools of how to play around with Blender. Now that G for grab, that works with the box as well. I can move it around, and if you started moving something around and you decided you didn't want to actually move it, before you drop it with the left mouse cursor, left mouse button, you hit the right mouse button, and it'll snap it right back to where it was. So you can move it and right mouse button, and it'll drop it back to just in case you accidentally moved the wrong thing. If you do move it and hit and drop it with the left mouse cursor, you can always hit Control Z to go back. Or you can do Shift S, and that's what some of these other things are. We can move the selection, which is anything highlighted out with this bright orange outline, and go selection to cursor. Now, I find that sometimes if I have my mouse way out here, I think I'm clicking on selection to cursor, and you can see it's actually highlighting cursor to grid. That's just kind of me not knowing where the limits of these things are, so it's better to keep your mouse in this little area as you do this, but you can snap that right back to where it was. Now if you do want that over there, you just move it, you drop it, Shift S, you can snap the cursor to that selection. Okay, so I'm going to Control Z to undo that. There we go. And this is the other thing I was just going to show, and I accidentally did this beforehand. You can click the Z key without the Control Z, and that will actually allow you to switch between these guys over here, just using an on pop-up menu over here, which is kind of useful. Now, in previous versions of Blender, there were actually more than just these 4 options. Yeah. So those are all handy tools, and I'm going to put the cursor back to the world origin, which is also the same thing as the selected in this case. What else do we have? We can move resize our viewports just by clicking and watching when our little icon gets to the backwards forwards. We can do that same down here with our up and down. We can even create new viewports by hovering over the thing we want to. Let's say I wanted to have a different view of this guy, and I wanted to make use of this space over here. What I could do is hover over this, right click until I get the up-down cursor, vertical split, and I can split it wherever I want. And now I've got 2 different views over here. And you might say, well, what good is that? You know, I can look at one from the top over here and one from the side. That's a use. Later on, you're going to be able to make use of some of these other tools. So, yeah. I'm going to leave that as 3D viewport because I'm trying not to pack too much into this video. And if you want to rejoin these areas, you don't like that anymore, click the join areas, and then this will tell you, the arrow will tell you which one you're keeping. So you're dragging it from the highlighted one, the sort of light gray one, over to the dark gray. So it's taking over that window. I think that's the way I think about it. All right, so what else? The other major thing you're going to do is you're going to be using edit mode. There are other things you can do over here, but right now, edit mode. This is how you actually edit an object. So You might have noticed that most 3D objects in most games and digital renderings, most CGI, are not just cubes. You can create tons of cubes if you want, but if you wanted them to actually look like something, then you need to learn how to do edit mode. Okay, some people will be yelling at me, sculpt mode as well. That's a little bit of a more advanced thing. Right now, if you just want to learn how to model, get used to edit mode and object mode. So object mode and edit mode. You can also go back and forth between the two by hitting the tab key. So tab, 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 tab. Okay. Now, what do we have over here? We have 3 different ways of selecting things. And selection is a video of its own. That's what I'm planning next. But we have vertex select. We can select these guys, each vertex individually. We have an edge select, and we can select each one of those individually. Now this one's actually a bit harder to see. I actually did select this guy, and you can tell that he's highlighted in white, whereas these guys are more, you have to really look to see that one. They're more highlighted in black. Okay, so white, black, the white one is the highlighted one. And then we have face select, and we can select the face, an entire face. Now if you go back to edge select, selecting selecting one square face will select all 4 of the edges or all 4 of the vertices. And if you're in edge select and you go to vertex select, then both of the vertices that were participating in that select, in that edge, are now selected. You can also select more than one thing by holding the shift key. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. I can didn't quite get that guy. All 4 of those guys, if you really, really, really want. And that's going to be the topic of the next video, is how to do all sorts of fancy things with selections. Because what I found is selection is like one of the very basic skills that you should have if you're going to be modeling. Because a lot of modeling boils down to extruding faces, pushing faces around, moving them around, and all of those boil down to making the proper selection of faces or vertices or edges or whatever it is you want. So that'll be the subject of the next video. This one, the last thing I'm going to show you though, is just like we can move things around with our selection in object mode, we can also move things around by typing G and just moving these guys around. Okay, let's Control Z out of that. G, and if you're actually accidentally moving the wrong things, right mouse click will drop it back where it was. Left mouse click drops it where you want it. Right mouse click, if you're accidentally grabbing the wrong things and moving the wrong things, then right mouse click will drop it back where it was. Okay, that's about it for this video. Next video will be on making the proper selections, all sorts of selection tools, because Blender really, modeling in Blender really comes down to making proper selections and doing the proper thing with those selections. And so it's a bit of a foundational tool. This moving things around is also a bit of a foundational tool. And moving the camera around, being able to look at things the way you want and light them the way you want, that's also kind of a foundational tool. But this is just sort of a let's get started, and I don't want to bore you with too many things or beat you over the head with too many different things all at once, because you need time to just play around with this and absorb it. So, all right, I will see you in the next video, and this is QIDX Games signing out.